To anyone watching, Emily and Nathan Granger were the definition of a dream couple. A bright, elegant woman with a calm presence and sharp eyes. A successful surgeon known for his charm, charity work, and dazzling smile. Their house was nestled in the hills of a quiet, affluent neighborhood. White picket fence, morning jogs, dinner parties, love notes left in lunch bags. But behind the French doors of that perfect home, something rotted. Something Emily didn't see until it was too late. Because what happens when the man you love isn't who you think he is? What happens when you discover his secret? And it kills you. Started small. Nathan began locking his office door. At first, Emily thought little of it: privacy, work stress, boundaries. But then there were the whispers. Phone calls he'd take outside. Long nights at the hospital with no explanation. The day he snapped at her for touching his briefcase, something in his eyes chilled her. She laughed it off, told herself it was nothing. But Emily had once been a journalist. And instincts like that don't die easy. 2 weeks before Emily vanished, a woman showed up at Nathan's office. Her name wasn't in the patient records. She didn't check in at reception. But the cameras caught her. She waited in the parking lot for over an hour. When Nathan finally came out, he froze. They argued. She shouted. He grabbed her arm hard. Later, he'd say it was a former patient. Delusional. Dangerous. But Emily saw the footage. And the look on Nathan's face? It wasn't fear. It was recognition. Late one night, after Nathan had gone to sleep, Emily took a paperclip and a flashlight. The drawer in his office had been bothering her. Always locked. Always off limits. Inside, she found a second phone. A black burner phone. No contacts. Dozens of deleted messages. But one photo remained. A woman bound, gagged, terrified, on a hospital bed. And behind her, barely visible, Nathan's watch. On March 2nd, 2023, Emily Granger was supposed to meet her sister Julia for brunch. She never showed up. Her phone rang twice, then went silent. Nathan told police she left after an argument, that she needed space. He said she packed a bag, but her passport was still in the drawer, her phone charger still on the nightstand, and her wedding ring left behind in the sink. Detective Leah Monroe had seen it all: runaways, staged suicides, real tragedies. But something about Emily's disappearance didn't sit right. Nathan was too rehearsed, too smooth, and when she requested security footage from the Granger's home, the system had mysteriously malfunctioned the night Emily vanished. She smelled bleach in the master bathroom. Nathan said he'd just cleaned, but there were no cleaning supplies under the sink. Julia never believed Nathan, not for a second. She knew her sister. Emily would never just disappear. She begged police to dig deeper, brought them the burner phone, the picture. But without a body, there was no arrest. Still, Julia started her own investigation, tracing Nathan's past, looking for women who might have crossed paths with him. She didn't know it yet, but Emily wasn't the first. 10 years earlier, at Nathan's former hospital in Michigan, a young medical intern named Carla Reyes disappeared. She was last seen arguing with a senior doctor in the parking garage. The case went cold. No suspect was ever named, but Julia found an old news article. The doctor's name was redacted. Still, in the grainy photo accompanying the story, was a man with a familiar smile: Nathan Granger. Detective Monroe returned to the Granger home with a warrant, thanks to a forensic clue found on the burner phone. In the crawl space above the garage, behind insulation and plywood, she found a sealed chest. Inside, jewelry, hair clips, IDs, lipstick-stained tissues, each item bagged, tagged, labeled with a date. Emily's was the most recent, the earliest. What Julia didn't know, and what the police were about to uncover, was that Nathan Granger had built something horrifying. A soundproofed room beneath his private office, a surgical bed, bloodstains on the walls, medical restraints, and in a locked cabinet vials of sedatives, scalpels, and recordings. Dozens of them, each one a woman, frightened, begging, unseen. And in every video, Nathan's voice, soft, calm, clinical. As Detective Monroe reviewed the tapes, one thing stood out. None of the women ever screamed for long. They were sedated, controlled, documented. Nathan didn't kill for rage. He killed for curiosity. Each video ended with a long pause, and then the screen would go black. Forensics estimated at least 12 victims. Emily was the last entry, but her video, it was missing. Julia, despite warnings from the police, confronted Nathan in public. She approached him outside his new clinic, phone in hand, camera rolling. He smiled, played the part. She called him a murderer. He called her unstable. The video went viral, but Nathan's lawyers filed a defamation suit. He wasn't arrested. And Julia? She started receiving anonymous messages. "Stop digging. You're next." A breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Emily's voice assistant. While reviewing archived audio data, Monroe found a file labeled simply March 1. It began mid-sentence. "Can't believe what I found. Nathan's not who he says he is. I have to get out. If I disappear, Julia, tell the police." There was a thud, a sharp inhale, and then the voice cut off. Digging deeper, Monroe uncovered a hidden financial trail. Nathan had been funneling money into an offshore account for years under a false identity, Dr. Elliot Crane. Under that alias, he'd bought a remote property 200 miles from the city. A cabin, no neighbors, no cell service. The same place where a woman went missing in 2018. Her body was never found. A SWAT team raided the property. What they found shocked even the most hardened officers. A walk-in freezer, surgical instruments, blood-soaked sheets, hair, teeth, partial remains. Buried in the woods was a steel container. Inside bones, clothes, jewelry, some of which matched items in the Granger house chest. But still, no sign of Emily's body. Nathan's charm began to falter under pressure. He refused to speak to police. His clinic was shut down. His staff interrogated. A former nurse, shaking, revealed she once saw him with a sedated woman after hours. He told her it was a psych patient. She didn't question him. Now she couldn't sleep, because she remembered the woman's face. It was Emily. Monroe's team found an encrypted hard drive hidden inside a false panel in Nathan's office. With FBI assistance, they cracked it. Dozens of gigabytes, notes, photos, voice recordings, psychological analyses of each victim like lab rats. Under Subject E13 was Emily. He had studied her, loved her, watched her. Then he documented the precise day he planned to remove her. Julia remembered a night Emily had called her, voice trembling, saying, "I think I married a stranger." Julia had dismissed it, told her to sleep on it. That memory now tormented her. She replayed every moment, every conversation, wondering if she could have stopped it. Grief twisted into guilt, and guilt into fire. She vowed to make sure he never saw the outside of a prison again. Just when police were ready to move in, something happened. Evidence vanished. A flash drive containing key files deleted. A server wiped remotely. Someone inside was helping Nathan. Someone in law enforcement. Detective Monroe began to suspect corruption. Her team was compromised, and time was running out. Then came the phone call. A fisherman near Crescent Marsh reported something floating. It was a tarp, duct-taped, weighted. Inside was Emily. Her wedding dress had been placed over her backwards. Her hands were folded, her lips sewn shut. DNA confirmed the identity. The case was no longer missing persons. It was murder. The press went wild. The dream doctor became a monster in headlines. Nathan's face, once beaming on charity banners, now glared from wanted posters. Protests erupted outside the police department, but still no arrest. Nathan had vanished, and with help on the inside, he could be anywhere. Monroe's investigation uncovered the mole, Lieutenant Randall Shaw, a longtime friend of Nathan's. Promoted quickly, too clean a record. Shaw had suppressed reports, tampered with logs. He was arrested and flipped immediately. In exchange for leniency, he gave them something priceless: Nathan's escape plan and the burner number he was using. They traced the phone to a motel in Nevada. FBI agents raided the room, but found only an empty bed and a message scrawled on the mirror. "She knew too much, so will you?" It was written in red ink. But it wasn't ink. It was blood. Heartbroken but determined, Julia launched a national campaign. She shared Emily's recordings, her journal, photos from the investigation. Thousands rallied to the cause. The hashtag Justice for Emily trended for weeks. The pressure forced federal agents to put Nathan on the most wanted list. The net was closing in. Monroe knew Nathan would slip up. He was obsessed with control, with seeing the outcome of his work. So they set a trap. They released false intel that one of the women in his videos had survived and remembered everything. They leaked her name, her address, and waited. At 3:12 a.m., night vision cameras caught a figure scaling the wall behind the fake victim's home. A man in dark clothes, gloves, no face visible. He picked the lock, moved like a surgeon. Inside, the trap sprung. He reached the bedroom, and the lights came on. Monroe stood waiting. "Dr. Granger, you're under arrest." Nathan didn't fight. He just looked Monroe in the eyes and said, "You took longer than I expected." They found a knife in his boot, syringes in his coat, zip ties in his inner pocket. He'd come to kill, silently, methodically. This time he failed. But the question haunted Monroe. How many times had he succeeded before anyone ever noticed? Nathan remained calm under questioning. Too calm. He asked for classical music, Earl Grey tea. He spoke of Emily like she was a case study. She was the most intellectually evolved, but like all the others, flawed by emotion. When Monroe pressed for a confession, he smirked. Why confess when the world already believes the worst? He was playing a game and the rules were his. Julia sat across from Nathan in a prison interview room. She wanted to scream, to spit in his face. But when she opened her mouth, all that came out was, "Why?" He stared at her, like she was a puzzle he'd solved long ago. "Because I could." Julia collapsed as the guard escorted her out. And for the first time since Emily's death, she wept. The FBI's deep dive uncovered encrypted folders on servers registered under shell corporations. Each folder was labeled by date and initials. Cross-referencing missing persons reports revealed at least 27 potential victims over a span of 12 years. But many bodies had never been found. Nathan was no one-time killer. He was a predator hiding in plain sight. Detectives traced Nathan's records back to a mysterious sabbatical year during his residency. No work, no trace, no explanation. Then they uncovered a series of cold cases in Eastern Europe. Women who went missing under nearly identical circumstances. One witness described the man last seen with a victim. His name? Elliot Crane. Nathan had been practicing long before Emily. The courtroom overflowed with reporters, activists, and grieving families. Nathan pled not guilty to all charges. His defense? That the evidence was circumstantial, the videos manipulated, and the voice recordings deep-faked. But as the jury saw photo after photo and heard Emily's final words, even the judge seemed shaken. Julia took the stand. She described Emily's fear, the missing journal, the blood on the floor. She played the final voicemail. The courtroom went silent. When she finished, she looked directly at Nathan. "You thought no one would come for her, but I did." Nathan looked away. For the first time, he seemed afraid. But just as the case neared its climax, a new bombshell dropped. The defense presented a motion claiming key evidence had been tampered with. A digital forensic expert, paid by Nathan, claimed timestamps were altered. If proven, the case could collapse. Monroe ordered an emergency audit. The countdown to justice was suddenly in jeopardy. The audit revealed the shocking truth. Someone inside the DA's office had indeed altered timestamps. But they weren't helping Nathan. They were trying to speed up the trial, to ensure a win. The prosecutor was fired. The trial paused. And Nathan? He smiled through it all. He thrived in chaos. Outrage erupted online. Memorials turned to protests. One by one, women from Nathan's past came forward with chilling accounts, inappropriate comments, manipulative behavior, uncomfortable exams. They were dismissed before. Now they had a voice, and the pressure forced the court to resume the trial under federal jurisdiction. Among sealed boxes in an off-site archive, investigators found a torn, yellow envelope. Inside, a letter addressed to Julia, written by Emily. "If I disappear, it's because I found the truth." She described finding surgical receipts, hidden documents, the real identity of Elliot Crane. She wrote, "I love him, but I don't trust him." That letter became the trial's emotional turning point. Nathan was ordered to undergo psychological evaluation. The result: highly intelligent, emotionally detached, exhibiting traits of narcissistic and psychopathic disorders. He had no remorse, no empathy, just strategy. He viewed his trial as a game, and he wanted to win. After 31 days of testimony, 142 exhibits, and over 50 witnesses, the jury returned the verdict. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, torture, unlawful disposal of remains. Julia sobbed in relief. Monroe exhaled for the first time in weeks. Justice was finally served. At the sentencing hearing, the judge looked Nathan in the eye and said, "You used intelligence to destroy lives. This court uses justice to protect them. Life without parole. No appeal. No deals. No exit." Nathan didn't flinch. He simply turned to Julia and whispered, "You won the trial, but she's still gone." Julia didn't stop at the trial. She launched the Emily Granger Foundation, an organization to investigate overlooked cold cases involving women. Within 6 months, 3 unidentified victims in Nathan's files were matched to missing women in Colorado, New Jersey, and Poland. Emily's death wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. With Nathan locked away, Julia focused on the unspoken names, the ones hidden in folders with only initials. She traveled state to state, meeting families whose daughters vanished without answers. One mother collapsed when she saw a bracelet once worn by her child, found in Nathan's storage unit. Every new name brought both pain and purpose. A popular true crime journalist scored the first prison interview with Nathan. In a gray jumpsuit behind glass, Nathan calmly said, "What scares people isn't that I existed. It's that I was charming, educated, married." He smiled and added, "I'm not a monster. I'm a mirror." The interview went viral overnight. While sorting old mail forwarded from Emily's office, Julia found a slim flash drive taped to a birthday card. She plugged it in with shaking hands. Inside, voice memos, photos, and a final unsent email. In it, Emily wrote, "If I vanish, don't believe the story. Start with the journal and follow the money." It was dated 4 days before her death. Emily had uncovered more than just Nathan's secrets. She had found irregular transfers, money laundered through fake wellness clinics Nathan helped consult. Shell companies led to international accounts, none in her name but all tied to Nathan's aliases. The numbers pointed to a much bigger operation. Was Nathan part of a network? Women from multiple states began to contact Julia. They'd known Nathan, some from conferences, others from wellness retreats. Many had been charmed. Some had escaped strange incidents they couldn't explain. Now they realized they'd almost become Emily. Together, they created a whistleblower group, the Voices Left Behind. While reviewing digital forensic evidence, Monroe found a detail they'd missed: a second IP address logged into the secret folders. It wasn't Nathan's. It belonged to someone named Dr. Saul Meyer, a renowned therapist who co-hosted events with Nathan. When confronted, Meyer denied everything, but cameras showed him at Emily's funeral. Standing, watching, silent, Dr. Meyer was arrested. His laptop revealed encrypted backups of the same videos Nathan had hidden. Worse, some videos were dated before Nathan ever met Emily. This wasn't just one killer. This was a network, a system of predators hiding behind wellness and psychology. Nathan had been the tip of a much darker iceberg. Just as Julia prepared to go public with Meyer's connection, someone broke into the Emily Granger Foundation office. Computers were wiped, files stolen. A USB drive was left on the front desk. No label, no message. Contained one chilling video. Nathan smiling at the camera. "You opened the door, Julia. I'm not the only one who walked through." Detective Monroe, haunted by years of darkness, finally broke. He was found sitting alone in his car at 3 a.m., outside Emily and Nathan's former home. He admitted to Julia, "I don't think we've stopped this. I think we've started a war." Julia reminded him, "Then let's fight like she did, with truth." A journalist leaked classified documents. Meyer and Nathan had once consulted for a federal behavioral analysis program. The project was shut down, officially, but questions arose. Why were both men shielded from background checks? Why did federal agents visit Meyer 3 weeks before his arrest? Suddenly, this wasn't just a domestic case. It was national. Summoned to speak before a congressional oversight committee, Julia laid it bare. She played clips of Emily's voice, showed names, dates, receipts. She told them, "You gave these men credibility, titles, funding, platforms. You handed them victims." Her testimony sparked a national investigation and a movement. Inside prison, Nathan and Meyer were placed in adjacent cells. Prison staff reported they communicated in code, tapping rhythms on the wall at night. Julia feared they were planning something. She pushed for their total isolation, but her request was denied. 3 weeks later, Meyer was found dead, allegedly suicide. Nathan didn't say a word. Meyer's suicide note was handwritten, but the ink matched neither prison-issued pens nor his known handwriting. It read, "She was the only one who saw us, the only one who mattered, and now she's gone." Julia stared at it for hours, then whispered, "Not gone, not forgotten." Julia stood alone at Emily's grave. Snow fell gently, the wind quiet. She placed Emily's journal, sealed in glass, beside the headstone. "I did it, Em. I exposed them. You were never crazy. You were right." As she walked away, a new name was being engraved beneath Emily's. Truth, justice, sisterhood. After Julia's testimony, dozens of institutions began internal reviews. Programs Nathan and Meyer helped design were quietly dismantled. 7 more professionals were placed under investigation. America began asking, how many wolves had we invited in? Julia was approached by 3 major publishers, but she refused the money. Instead, she self-published Emily's story, every word, every warning. The Truth Behind the Smile sold over 1 million copies. All proceeds went to helping victims of psychological abuse. One night, Julia received a package. No return address. Inside, a photo of Emily on her wedding day, slashed diagonally with red marker, and a single note, "The game isn't over. You just changed the rules." Who sent it? Was it a follower? Or another predator still free? The Emily Granger Foundation opened branches in 6 states. They trained survivors to become advocates, investigators, and public speakers. For the first time, victims were heard, not just pitted. They weren't statistics anymore. They were fighters. Inside maximum security, a riot broke out. Nathan was injured, stabbed twice. He survived. But when the guards asked him who attacked him, he smiled and said, "You don't stab God. You just make him angry." His delusion had grown. So had his influence behind bars. A woman was found dead in Oregon. Her body staged like one of Nathan's documented murders. Police feared a copycat. But Monroe noticed something different. This killer wanted attention. Unlike Nathan, who worked in shadows. Was this the birth of a new monster, or bait to draw Julia out? After multiple threats and doxing, Julia was placed under federal protection. She hated the walls, the silence, the eyes always watching. But Monroe reminded her, Emily died because she was alone. You live because you're not. An anonymous source released Nathan's full confession tapes. In them, he described each murder in chilling detail. But one line stuck out. There was one I didn't finish. I let her live because she looked like Emily. A survivor was out there, and she had never come forward. Julia tracked her down. Her name was Renee Collier, a therapist who once worked with Nathan at a retreat center. She had vanished in 2017, but reappeared under a new identity. Renee agreed to talk on camera. Her story stunned the world. Renee detailed how Nathan lured her in, isolated her, then drugged her. But before he could kill her, she escaped barefoot through the woods. She never told police, convinced no one would believe her. Watching Emily's story gave her the courage to come forward. Inspired by Julia and Renee, survivors created a digital movement. #Daughters of Emily trended worldwide. Thousands shared their own near misses, manipulations, and scars. They weren't just mourning a woman they never met. They were rising for her. Despite already serving life, new charges were brought against Nathan for the other uncovered victims. The courtroom was silent as each name was read. He laughed during sentencing, but the judge silenced him. "You don't get to control the room anymore. Your voice ends here." Detective Monroe, gray-haired and bone-tired, announced his retirement. At his farewell press conference, he said, "I've seen evil. I've shaken its hand. But I've also seen one sister move mountains. And that's how I'll sleep at night." Julia hugged him, both of them finally free. On the anniversary of Emily's death, a statue was erected outside the foundation's headquarters. It was Emily, journal in hand, wind in her hair. Beneath it read, "She saw the truth when no one else would. She made us listen." Julia sat in her quiet living room years later. Emily's journal rested on the mantel. She turned on the TV and saw a young woman speaking at a rally. "I survived because Emily did not. I fight because Julia did." Tears welled in her eyes. The story wasn't over, but the justice had begun. Years later, an internal memo leaked. Someone inside the DOJ flagged the Nathan Granger case for review. It wasn't just about murder anymore. It was about cover-up. Names redacted, dates missing, files classified. Who was protecting him? And why? Julia received an anonymous USB, encrypted. Inside, emails between Nathan and a black-budget psychological warfare program. Nathan had been on a government contract, testing behavioral manipulation on civilians. Emily had uncovered it in his private notes. That's why she died. Retired Detective Monroe came out of hiding. He confirmed it. Years ago, Nathan had hinted at clients higher up, but no one believed him then. Now they had proof. This wasn't just a murder case. It was treason wrapped in blood. A man named Dr. Langston Avery stepped forward. Former psychological analyst. Former CIA contractor. He worked with Nathan in early-stage testing. What he said chilled the nation. They didn't just know what he was. They used him until he slipped. Julia remembered Emily had hidden a second journal, one that never made it into evidence. She searched the house. Under floorboards in Emily's old closet, she found it. Inside were names, phone numbers, hotel rooms, timestamps. A kill list or a client list. Monroe accessed a backup server tied to Emily's car GPS. There was dashcam footage, corrupted but salvageable. It showed the last person to see Emily alive wasn't just Nathan. It was his handler, a federal agent in plain clothes. Who was he? Julia contacted others on the journal's list. 3 had gone missing. 2 were dead. 1 refused to speak, but slipped her a note. "Trust no badge. If they offer help, run." The rabbit hole was far deeper than she imagined. Behind bars, Nathan sent a letter to the DOJ. He offered a full confession on the condition he be transferred to a less restrictive facility. He wanted out of solitary. His letter ended with, "You can't erase the architect. Without me, the building falls." But this time, the government didn't play along. Nathan's request was denied. He responded with rage, smashing his cell, screaming Emily's name. It was the first time he showed real fear. The power he once had was crumbling. Julia published the journal. Every page, she named names. She connected timelines. She risked everything. Major news outlets picked it up. The phrase Granger Protocol trended globally. And then, a new investigation was launched. In a landmark moment, Congress summoned officials tied to the covert ops Nathan had worked under. Some denied involvement. One broke down in tears. Another whispered as they left the chamber. Emily Granger was the warning we ignored. An old friend of Emily's sent Julia a voicemail Emily had left days before she died. In it, she said, "If anything happens to me, don't just blame Nathan. Look at the people who paid him." It was Emily's voice and her prophecy. 2 federal contractors were indicted. One was a top-level behavioral researcher who had known Nathan since med school. The charges? Negligent homicide, conspiracy, obstruction. Justice had teeth again. When told of the arrests, Nathan fell silent. He stopped eating. He refused visitors. Eventually, he carved Emily's name into the wall of his cell, over and over. And then, one night, he collapsed. Nathan was dead. Cause? Ruptured brain aneurysm. No signs of trauma. No signs of poisoning. Just a mind that finally snapped under the weight of its own lies. Emily didn't get to kill him, but her truth did. Before retiring, again, Monroe sealed a file with one sentence written on the front. "She died fighting monsters. Now we hunt them with her light." He handed it to Julia and disappeared into peaceful anonymity. Facial recognition from the dashcam revealed the mystery man. He was a senior field agent for a now-defunct program. Julia confronted him. He didn't deny it, but he said only one thing: Emily knew too much. We underestimated her. Then he turned himself in. Congress passed the Emily Granger Whistleblower Protection Act, a sweeping reform that shielded domestic abuse victims and whistleblowers from state retaliation. Her death changed the law. Her voice rewrote policy. At a vigil held 5 years after Emily's death, her mother addressed the crowd. "My daughter isn't just ashes in the wind. She's the storm that followed." Thousands cried with her, even Julia. Julia placed Emily's journal in a glass case at the foundation. The last page had no writing, just a single quote taped inside. "The truth will cost you, but silence will cost others." Emily paid the price, but in the end, justice collected the debt. Stay tuned for more chilling cases on Cold Case Chronicles, where the truth is always darker than fiction. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to Cold Case Chronicles. We dive deeper into the most chilling, unsolved mysteries, and together, we uncover what was left behind. Like, share, and leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts. Stay vigilant. Stay curious. The truth never rests.